Hans Niemanns just played the most incredible game of his entire life, hitting not one, not two, but three brilliant moves. Today, we are going to cover this incredible game and talk about how you can use it to improve in your chess game. So Hans Niemanns is lined up against Yagis Khan, and he's essentially Kid Magnus right now. I think he's like 14 or 16 years old. He has a draw over Gukash, the current world champion, and for his own right, he's having an incredible tournament, and he looks like he's going to ascend to that Super GM category very soon. But Hans here just plays e4. He's not afraid. He doesn't care. He's out for blood. Hans Niemanns is one of the most aggressive chess players in the world, and he wants to win games. And even though he gets a lot of hate, a lot of people disagree with the things he says and does, he just wins. He wins games. And so Yagis is going to play the Petrov. Rather than normal lines like knight to c6, where your idea is to just basically protect the center, you're actually just going to destroy the center. These knights are going to eat up the pawns on e5 and e4, and the e5 just opens up. It becomes very interesting. So Hans takes. There's really no rush to take back. The main line's actually just d6, attacking the knight. The knight retreats, then we take, and after, let's just say d4, still mainline, all theory so far, he's just going to play d5. What we're going to see right away is that if this knight isn't taken care of, it can get extremely difficult to deal with. These pawns are going to anchor the knight in, and it's going to be trouble for white. So just bishop to d3, attacking the knight, and then knight to c6, saying, okay, take it if you like. It's no big deal, but I'm going to try to win your d-pawn. Hans is just going to castle. There's no need to worry just yet. The bishop will most likely come to g4. You're going to see f5. And this could get interesting. I mean, Yagis can castle long. He can also castle short. Either would work well for him. But bishop to g4. I noticed that even just taking here, there's some major complications with this knight. So you have to be careful. The issue with this knight is if you don't take care of it quickly, you're going to have problems and you're going to have tactics. Main line is just c4. You undermine this d-pawn and you try to win the knight. And this rook will come to e1 as well. The king hasn't castled yet, so you're trying to take advantage of this. But here, just c3. And I can't imagine wanting to play like this because the issue is this knight here isn't going anywhere. It's locked down. It's completely locked down. And it's a really annoying outpost. You can eventually play f3 maybe and try to chase it away. Maybe go for some sort of tactics. But it's an annoying knight, and you're going to have to deal with it for quite a while. So knight to d2. Hans is milking the position. He's just milking pressure. He doesn't want to take. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. And then queen to f6. And Yagis' plan is very simple now. He's going to castle long. He's going to pawn storm on the king side. And he's going to try to run over Hans Niemanns. He's not afraid either. And if Hans ever takes this knight, it's just serious complications, right? Like I said, this is just not takeable. So that's an issue for black, or for white, I should say, because really what's happening here is you can't take this knight, and at any point this knight can take and try to open up tactics for him. So Hans is going to go for counterplay, queen a4. This is a great move, and as Gotham Chess points out in his video, now all of a sudden the engine's not sure if you should castle long anymore. Now the engine's saying, well, maybe bishop d6, you keep it flexible, we could castle short, we could also castle long. But the issue here is that, you know, Hans is going to try to take this knight, and he's going to try to win this pawn if castles. And Yagis does just castle. So Hans targets the knight. And the knight's the only defender of a7. You could just scoot the king over, but Yagis takes first. Like I said, he can take at any point, and you would love to take back with the bishop. But the problem here is just takes, pawn takes. And yeah, I drew a bunch of lines. These lines look mean. These are mean lines. So the bishop goes to d6, the queen goes to h4, and he's going to threaten checkmate. It's going to be a very simple plan. So double pawns are bad in a lot of situations, and this is no exception. Instead, you obviously take with the knight, and there's an advantage for black here. So he can still play bishop to d6, but you're supposed to notice here that white's development is stunted. This knight is blocking the bishop, and the bishop's blocking the rooks from being connected, which is a problem. You want the rooks connected, you want your minor pieces out in the center of the board taking squares. And so Yagis correctly identifies this issue, and he plays the best move, f4. This is great. It controls the bishop. You can't go to e3. The natural development plan here would be bishop e3, so obviously knight b3 first, bishop e3, and then the rooks are connected, and you're going to go for a queenside attack. Black goes for a kingside attack. So excellent move by Yagas, and he's winning here. Just this f4 move. You can play g5. You can lock down this side of the board. You're not as worried about this because if you do take and try to attack the king, the bishop's still going to come to e6. These pawns are still pushing, and the king is going to be okay in the center of the board. So rook to e1 for Hans, and this is where Yagas makes a mistake. f3. So for all the reasons why I said that f4 was an amazing move, f3 is a really bad move because now the bishop is open, and we can still go knight b3, bishop e3, and you just have to find the right idea here. So the right idea, for the record, is to eat up this knight, ruin the pawn structure, and then play g3. You just give up the white squares. This is fine. White's winning here. The whole point is that the king is so wide open here, and the queen can't very easily get to this h3 square for mate, this lie pot mate. Like if queen to h6, you think you're in great shape, just knight here. And this comes with a discovery on the queen. And yeah, you can also just hit the king with a ton of different checks, and you can just eat up these pawns. And I mean, white's completely fine here, really. So what are you gonna do, right? However, this line is very difficult for somebody to find, even at Hans Niemanns' level. And I did spoil the move, but he doesn't find this sequence. He plays h3, which is actually a complete miss. It's a miss. It's a miss because really the pawn structure is completely fine with g3, but you opening up the light squares like that, it's not a sane idea. So the bishop's gonna move back. And in fairness to Hans, he finds this sequence here: bishop takes, pawn takes. He's created this queenside weakness, and it's about to be chaos. And then here, rook to e5. So remember this idea of the bishop where he wants to go to d6? Well, as it turns out, rook to e5 is a beautiful defensive resource that completely keeps black away from the king side. And you don't really want to take this. You want to try to pile pressure this way. So in this situation, queen to g6, threatening checkmate in 1. Here, Hans finds g3, and it's kind of the same deal as before. There's really just no way to infiltrate this quickly. And the king, even though your light squares are weak, is going to be okay because you're going to have an attack on the queen side that the engine likes a little bit better. So now here, bishop to d6, and the brilliance of this rook move is shown. So if we go back a little bit, and let's say I just play a random move. I don't know, put the rook here, queen goes here, we go here, and then bishop here. If you go knight to b3 trying to create a queenside attack, you always have sacrificing ideas. And after takes, I really don't see how you're going to survive in this situation. So because of that, Hans obviously found this idea rook to e5. And after bishop to d6, you think, well, so what? You have to move the rook. Well, no, you do not have to move the rook. Hans finds his first brilliant move, knight to b3. And from this point on, we're going to see the immortal Hans Niemann game. We're going to see him sacrifice material piece after piece and just execute a beautiful attack that basically leads to black losing everything. And the first course is if bishop takes rook, the knight slimes in the c5, covering b7 and d7. And as it turns out, you're going to get mated. The best move here is literally rook to d7. You don't even take the exchange back. That's what's amazing. You find bishop to g5, a move that nobody's talking about, but bishop g5 is insane because the point of the rook, right? This rook is blocking the king, right? So the king, as of now, is going to get mated. So the rook is clearing space for the king. He's just going to try to literally run to the other side of the board. He's going to manually castle king side from the queen side. But what he finds is bishop to g5 because now he's blocking the square. And then you're thinking, well, okay, but queen takes. No, queen a6. checking the king. He can scoot over to b8 and get mate quickly, or he can go king to d8 and get forked. This is a really good knight, and you're going to win back the queen and end up in an amazing position. So you cannot take this bishop, and you have to understand, he calculated this and realized like, oh yeah, I can't take this rook, because remember, Genghis Khan isn't like an NPC. He's one of the best chess players in the world. In 10 years, he will probably be a world champion. Maybe sooner. It may happen. It might happen this year. I don't know. The rook comes to f8. He sees it. He doesn't like it. He's just going to try to centralize his rook. Positional play. No problem with that. Bishop to e3. Now he's just opening up more threats. If the rook takes, the bishop's just going to come in as well and add an extra attacker. This bishop g5 idea is always going to be a thing as well. But I think really Hans wants to just get this rook involved. And now it's time. Rook to e8. Adding another attacker to the rook. And here all of a sudden, the king has more escape squares, right? He can just go more places. And quickly you're realizing that there's no immediate way to win. Or is there? And the trick is there is. Hans finds another brilliant move. Queen to c6. Sacrificing the rook again. And Genghis is kind of like, well, why'd you do that? I can now take the rook. And he tests it. But what Hans finds here is a completely different idea that kind of does the same thing. He goes queen to a8. Of course, the next move is forced. He's going to have to go to d7. So not putting the knight here first, but forcing the king to move into check. The king is hit here. And all of a sudden, the king is literally running for his life. And I'm sure Genghis calculated this, but felt as though he had enough time to go e7, f7, and then g8, and then maybe even h8. And all of a sudden, he's just winning, right? And this is a reasonable plan, but after king to e7, you know, he's almost there. He's so close. Queen to d5, just shutting down the diagonal. This is unbelievable stuff, guys. He's shutting down the diagonal, and there's no way for Genghis to get through now. So you have to try to trade off queens here. So queen to f5. There had to be a better move here, but it's really hard to find. Queen to f5 is great because you're blocking off d7, but you're also threatening h3 followed by g2 checkmate. There is an idea that we've been talking about and alluding to this entire video. Bishop g5. Checking the king. The king actually has no legal moves. The king is if you couldn't move any pieces, it'd just be checkmate. So you have to put a piece on this square to block, right? Obviously moving the queen here is just not appetizing and also falls into mate, right? Like here, I think this is over. Like there's just nowhere for the king to go. So okay, obviously you're not gonna do that, but maybe a more logical bishop f6. But what's funny here is that rook e1 is also just forced mate. The bishop's pinned to the king, and you can just put the queen on any of these three squares, and it's going to be mate shortly after. So that doesn't really work either. And so what you have to do here is put the rook on f6. I guess I should cover the fact that, oh yeah, the bishop's hanging once again, but I think you guys got the idea here. The queen's defending some important squares, and after queen to e6, king moves over, queen mate on d7. This is all a forcing maneuver. So yeah, like obviously you also just can't take the bishop. So rook goes to f6. The rook's now pinned to the king, but at least you're not mated. But here, pawn takes e5. The beginning of the end. Like I said, the rook's pinned, the pawn's attacking, and after queen takes bishop, it's fine because pawn takes comes with check. So the queen's not hanging. So just taking with the pawn. And then what's funny is Genghis just immediately resigns here. And if you can see the sequence right here to see why Genghis resigns, go ahead and let me know in the comment section what you think the move is, but I'm gonna spoil it right now. Rook e1. The next move is forced. I mean, you know, like you can block with the queen in a multitude of different ways, but you know, naturally you're just gonna go king to f8. You can actually just take the rook here, king takes, and then a beautiful move, queen d7. Not quite checkmate, but after the king moves over, knight e6, and you've once again set up this beautiful fork. And yeah, this is a winning endgame. Like you just can't win this game. This bishop's just too weak. So now at this point, if we take a look at the standings, he's he's tied for second place with a bunch of different people. At the time of recording, he's tied for second place. I know that tomorrow things will be a little different, and he's playing Alireza Firouzja from France, really great player, and that's going to be a tough matchup for him, but he could easily make the candidates tournament. People did not believe this was even possible. He's playing at an extremely high level, getting some amazing wins. Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for him. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Stay classy. Until next time.